Hi everybody, Eric Green, Vice President of Maintenance for Stone Transport. I'm here today to talk about a proper pre-trip and post-trip inspection. Now, pre-trip and post-trip is probably the most important part of your day. It helps you get off to the right start. So we're going to kind of talk about not only the tools that you're going to use for a proper pre-trip and post-trip, but also the process to go through a proper pre-trip and post-trip. We understand not all our trucks are the same. So I did pick a set of Michigan doubles that we use here. It encapsulates most of things, but you flatbed guys, you step deck guys, stuff like that. Ladies, you're going to have other components that we should be checking as well. Your tarps, your chains, the conditions of such, all those sorts of things. But we're going to do a basic pre-trip and post-trip and how Stone Transport likes to see you do one. So as you can see, we have an international truck here hooked to a set of doubles. We also, when we start our pre-trip process, we're going to be walking out, and maybe I know it's 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that, and I should talk about a little bit about the tools for a pre-trip and post-trip. Proper tools, especially if it's dark out, I recommend a headlamp, but also a flashlight. A little pen light is all you need. It really will get you fine. If you combo that with a headlamp, a hammer. You need a hammer to do a proper pre-trip and post-trip. A little piece of wood to kick a tire. You don't kick tires. That's hard on your feet. Use a hammer. A rag so you can wipe stuff off. You can check oils properly. I won't go through every action here, but I'm going to point them out to you. So as we come up and we're checking our truck over, we're making sure there's no obvious puddles underneath the truck, anything leaking from the movement the day before. As we come up to the engine compartment, we are inspecting all of our hoses, looking at everything, making sure there's nothing that's obviously leaking, anything that looks loose, seeping, that may need to be tightened up. And if you see a small clamp or something that needs to be tightened up and it looks like it's leaking, don't be afraid to give a little twist, with your wrench or your screwdriver or stuff like that. Just make sure it's tight. You have your oil check here. We're not going to pull the stick, but right there, you pull it out, wipe it off, insert it all the way back in, pull it back out. Make sure your oil's full. Check the condition of your belts up in the drive here. Make sure you don't see anything hanging off, fraying. It's going to be hard to see inside to see if there's cracking in the belt, but just overall condition, make sure you're checking that. Make sure you're checking you don't have anything broken in your brake systems underneath here. Looking at your grease line, Stone Transport has a very unique grease system. So all of our trucks, for the most part, have auto greasing lube systems on them. You want to make sure you're checking those systems over. Don't forget to check your greaser system. Make sure it has enough grease to sufficiently grease the truck. As you can see, this one's only about a third full. It's probably getting ready for grease in the next week or two here. So stop by one of our shops. They'll be more than happy to fill you up anytime you need grease in your greaser system. And there again, you're looking at overall condition of the truck. You're checking your glass, making sure you don't have cracks, making sure you haven't anything new hanging off, bolt broken you didn't see from the night before. Maybe you're tired, you got home. At that point, we're going to fire the truck up. We've checked our fluids. We know we're good there. So at that point, we are going to use 3 points of contact to get in and out of this truck. We're going to check to make sure it's not in gear. And we're going to get it started up. Well, after we start it, we're going to let the truck build up air, and then we're going to release our trailer brakes so we can be listening for air leaks when we're inspecting our trailer. We're also going to turn our lights on and our four-ways on. If it's dark out, you can use the backdrop at night to hit your brakes to check your brake lights to make sure they're working. It'd be hard to test otherwise. As we come through the truck, it's important to check all components of this truck. Look at your frame rail. Make sure you don't have any cracks, anything like that. You're looking at your fifth wheel, making sure everything looks good there, doesn't look dry. You're not hearing any audible air leaks in your red Glad hand. If so, it may just be a rubber diaphragm. You can pop it out, put a new one in, you're good. You're checking your hydraulic hoses, making sure there's not extra wear here at the joint where the crimp meets to make sure you don't have a risk of blowing one. Looking at making sure all your lines are clean and not touching the deck. You don't want lines rubbing, it's actually a DOT violation. As you're walking down your truck, you're checking your lights. Great recommendation, when you're doing your pre-trip, wipe your lights off in the morning and you're checking your tires. The hammer, you ask why a hammer? Because if you kick a tire, you can hurt yourself. You could be on ice, you could be on anything else. You don't want to do that. You want to hit your tire with a hammer, hear that solid thud, that tells you that tire's got air in it. Experienced truck drivers, many of you know I started here as a driver. you listen for that thud. You listen for what that sounds like after time. As you're walking through your pre-trip, don't be afraid to wipe your DOT tape off too. That's one of the huge things a lot of people don't do. Wipe it off, make sure everything's working. You're walking through, you're checking your tires. As you get back into the spring areas and such of the frame components, you're continually looking at your frames. Remember guys, don't forget to drain your air tanks. Pull those cords. And sometimes they don't always lock right back, but pull those cords. As we walk through, we're also checking our hubs. Now you ask me, what was this little light for? The reason I like these little lights is because a lot of times, especially in the dark, you can put this light on that hub, it'll light that hub up and you can see the oil in the hub. But if not, use your rag. Wipe your hubs off. Make sure you got enough oil in your hub. As you can see, the level of the oil right here is right at the line. There's an add line and a fill line. These caps just pop out real easy. 80-90 weight is all you need. You can get it at any auto parts store if you're on the road and you need some. Again, we're hitting our tires as we go through. On a set of doubles, a little more complex than a single trailer. You've got the full pinhole hook system. You want to inspect your tongue, everything for cracks, look for loose bolts, anything that you could possibly find, inspecting. And when you're underneath here, you're also looking at your brake shoes, making sure, remember, you need at least a 1/4 inch of shoe to be DOT legal. Look at your brake shoes. Look at your slack adjusters. Make sure nothing's hanging off. And again, we're inspecting hydraulic hoses here. We're looking at our safety chains, making sure they're hooked up, making sure our pins are in, and everything else. And that's a lot of information to take in at once, but there again, we're wiping off our DOT tape as we go. We're wiping off our lights as we go. We're making sure our four-ways are working. We're checking our mud flaps. Sounds like a lot of information, guys, but it'll be fast once you get a system down. You're looking at your tarps, making sure that's works. And I recommend, guys, lubing these up at least once a week. Spray some penetrating oil and run your tarps back and forth. It'll help things work. Again, as we come through, we're hitting our tires. We're making sure they're good. You hear that solid thud? That's what you want to hear. We're wiping off our caps. We're also looking at our wheels, and we're looking for maybe streaks coming out of the lug nuts, indicating a lug nut might have loosened up some. We're looking at cracks in our wheels, making sure we don't have any visible cracks in our wheels. We're looking at frame cross members. We're making sure our landing gear is all the way up. Springs. As you look in here, you can see, it's a little hard to see, but you can check springs from one side to the other by just looking in. Take your flashlight, look down in there, look for cracks, look for loose U-bolts. If you see shiny on the washer of the U-bolt, chances are that U-bolt's starting to work itself loose a little bit. Again, we're checking our hubs. We're light checking our hubs, making sure. And I know I didn't wipe it all the way through, but we're wiping that DOT tape off as we walk through our truck and trailer. We come all the way down to the back side of the trailer. We're looking at our fasteners. We're making sure our turnbuckles are on. Remember guys, if a turnbuckle's on a trailer, it has to be used. So if you're not going to use them, you need to take them all the way off. But we have to use them when we haul steel, and Stone Transport prides itself how we haul steel. Mud flaps, making sure, this one right here is starting to show a little bit of wear, probably okay. There again, probably should have another mud flap with you as a spare. Making sure our license plate is visible. Lights are working. All the lights are working. Wiping our lights off. In the wintertime, guys, especially, it's key. When you fuel, wipe your DOT tape off. It lets everybody know that you look at your truck. Again, we're looking at our tarps. We're checking operation of our tarps. We're looking the whole truck over front to back. Now there's some things I didn't cover inside the cab as far as checking your air alarm, things of that nature. Guys, we're professional truck drivers. We understand how to do that. If you have more questions about that, contact our maintenance department. But this kind of gives you a general overview of a good pre-trip, post-trip. And there again, the obvious things, the lights, the headlights, things of that nature, we're checking all of them. So thank you, and everybody drive safe.